Hello, you are so welcome to my podcast in English number 16. I'm recording this on the 12th of March 2020 and it's a beautiful sunny day here near Lyon in France. Today I'm going to talk about a beautiful new shawl pattern in crochet by EclatDuSoleil or Hélène Marcy, that's her real name. I'm also going to talk about my latest design, which is knitted, and about an older pattern that has recently become easily available again. And to end things, just a few words on what's coming next in my newsletter. So if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new to my channel, I'm Annette Betterly. I'm a Swedish crochet and knit designer and teacher living in France near the beautiful city of Lyon. I design patterns. You can find my own patterns both on my own website and on Ravelry. I teach locally for the time being. And I also, on my website, have a large part of my website that's about selling yarn. And I also sell patterns from other independent designers. So you can find links to this below, to my website, to my blog in English, to my newsletter in English. There's a link so you can subscribe. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook as Annette Betterly, and of course here on YouTube, where you can subscribe to my channel if you want to follow up what I'm going to talk about in the coming months. So this podcast is at least 2 weeks late compared to what I had planned for. As I said last time, I was going to Sweden for 2 weeks, and then I had an event in Strasbourg, so in the northeast of France. And then I thought I would record a podcast the week after that. But I got a terrible cold, just a common cold virus, not the virus we're all worried about right now. And I completely lost my voice. I taught a one-day class when I was away, and I had strictly no voice left when I came back. And last week I thought I was going to record, but that was without counting on the planning or lack of planning on my son. My son is currently doing his first year of university. He studies to become a technical seller, but in the first year of these studies they are doing a 1 month long work placement that is not about sales at all. They need to work in production to understand that products come from somewhere and that it's not always that easy to produce them at the rate and quality needed. So he worked for 4 weeks plus 1 week when he was really working, not a work placement. He was a temp worker for 1 week afterwards. He worked in a small food company near us. They produce typical French and especially from Lyon charcuterie, so different kinds of sausages and other stuff. And it was very interesting, and he had lots of things to say, but my son is dyslexic. So to write on his own a 30-page report was too difficult. So last week, instead of recording a podcast and doing lots of other things, I spent many hours helping him with this report. And I think we were quite successful. So that is why this podcast is out so late, because, well, life happens. Sorry, I had to take a quick break there because I had forgotten the compulsory podcaster's tea. And right now, even if my voice is much better, there's no way I'm going to talk for any length of time without a cup of tea. So I'll just let it steep there and we'll continue. So the first topic is this beautiful shawl and this beautiful shawl, because they are both in the same pattern. So the pattern is called Blue Song. It's a design by EclatDuSoleil, who is Hélène Marcy in real life. And Helen, let's call her Helen for while we speak English here. Helen has a knack for these beautiful, timeless, classic design with a playful element to them. So I'm going to show you this, what I have around the neck, so you can appreciate the beauty of it all. So this one is crocheted in my London laceweight yarn. This is the bamboo laceweight, more about the yarn later. So here you can really see the stitch pattern in the center of the shawl. And this is actually the same stitch pattern in both shawls. In this one, Helen has worked with color blocking. So she has worked one ball in one color, then another one in another color, and then the border in a third color, creating kind of a gradient of 3 solid colored yarns. And here she has used 2 colors to create a striped shawl. So this is, of course, something that creates a lot of visual difference between the shawls. Also, the border is different. So here you can see it's a larger border. And here we have just this pretty little finish just along the edge. You can see the center of the shawl stops here, and this is the little pretty border. So I wanted to talk a bit about the yarn used. So this is my laceweight woolen silk of London. It's 50% wool and 50% silk. It's a yarn, it's a true lace weight, so it's I'm sorry, I'm in metrics, but you can find all the imperial information on the website. So it's 400 meters per 50 grams. This one Helen made in my lace weight bamboo that I don't have anymore currently. It was a lovely yarn. Some of you will have it in your stash, but I have, let's say, for the moment discontinued it because it was a bit complicated to get more of this yarn. It's produced by a French mill, but they produce these thin strands and then they twist them together to make a thicker yarn. And I want the thin strands, and they have not produced them for and certainly not dyed any new colors for quite a while. So I decided to to do a sale on this the bamboo yarn, and it might come back, it might not. But if you have anything similar, like a bamboo yarn at about 300 meters per 50 grams, it will be perfect for this version. But you can, of course, use a normal lace weight. So the yardage requirements are a little bit different, of course, because of the border, because this small border takes up less yarn than this one. So for this one, you will need 800 meters. And for this one, you will need 900 meters. But I really encourage you to try out different yarns, because this is a very versatile pattern. I want to show you the general shape. I didn't do that, I think. So it's a triangular shawl. I was going to say scarf because I always wear them, well, this way, like scarves. But it's a triangular shawl, so it's classical and elegant shape, as well as the stitch pattern, which isn't really difficult at all. So then you can really play around by trying out different yarns and using different colors. For if you want to do color blocking, you can of course do that on this one as well. and depending on color placement, you will have a different effect. Here Helen took the darkest yarn and put it on the top of the shawl and the lightest one in the border. So if you have equal quantities of the yarn, the one that you put at the top, since the rows are shorter, visually you will have the impression that that is the main color of the shawl, except of course when you wear it like this, because then it will be a bit scrunched up and you will see the border and the middle color even better. So this is really something to play around with. I could also see it in beautiful fingering versions, in which case I would use a slightly larger hook to keep this light and soft and drapey result. So that's Blue Song by EclatDuSoleil, and it's available in my shop. I will put links, of course, below, and you can also go directly to my website and poke around and see what I have there. So that was a design by EclatDuSoleil, Hélène Narcy. And since last time, I haven't had published any new crochet designs, but I have been knitting. And I understand that perhaps most of you come here for crochet content, but that's not why I'm not a reason for me not to show you what I have been knitting. So this is a small cowl. I'm going to put it on, but I'm showing it to you first. So recently, I'd say for the past 2 or 3 years, there's been a big boom in brioche stitch. And this is an example of one colored brioche stitch. So brioche stitch looks a bit like 1 by 1 ribbing, so knit 1 purl 1, but it's not constructed that way. It's a very specific way of constructing your knitted fabric. It gets very squishy, very soft, and it eats up a lot of yarn. So it has both advantages and disadvantages, as everything. I wanted to do a pattern in 1 color brioche because I teach a 1-day class on brioche knitting, where we do 1 color brioche in the morning to understand how the fabric is created and how to work increases and decreases. And then we go on to 2 color brioche in the afternoon, and that's more complex. And there are lots and lots of patterns in 2 color brioche. It's beautiful, it's lovely, and there is a little less offer in 1 color brioche, but look, it's pretty. So this pattern is obtained, this stitch pattern is simply increases and decreases. And I wanted to be able to give a pattern to my students at the end of the class so they can exercise the new skills immediately. And also, of course, the pattern is available for sale on its own. So this is a buttoned cowl. I did this because I think it's interesting. Well, I wanted to work the stitch pattern flat. So either I sewed it up or I buttoned it. And I think buttoning a cowl is interesting because it gives you so many options in how to wear it. So you can wear it, of course, with the buttons in the front. You can also switch around and wear the buttons on the side. Now, when I watch my screen, everything is turned around. So it's a bit hard for me to follow. I think it's even more fun with the buttons on the side if you want to wear this as a buttoned up cowl. But what I really like to do when I'm wearing this type of cowl is to leave a tip at the front. So I have unbuttoned all the buttons except 1. And that way I can wear it like this. It's a bit asymmetrical. I like it that way. It's a lot of fun. So this is one color brioche, so you can do it on a pair of straight needles if you want to. You don't have to slide the knitting back and forth as you do in two color brioche. And of course you can have a lot of fun with different types of yarns and buttons and everything. So the yarn I used here is yarn from the German company Shawl, and it's yarn that includes it's made from 90% organic merino and 10% hemp. And sometimes, you know, when you have a very small percentage of the fiber in a yarn, you can wonder, what is this fiber doing there? Sorry, time for podcaster's tea. So, is there any specific reason to add just 10% of something to a yarn? And in this case, yes. It's different from a 100% merino yarn. It's different in the touch. It's not scratchy at all, but you feel that it has a little bit more substance. A 100% merino yarn is really soft, but sometimes it can be a bit like it kind of floats away from you somehow when you touch it. This yarn holds itself, and it has beautiful stitch definition for any textured pattern, and this is going to be wonderful in crochet as well. I haven't worked it in crochet yet, but I'm certainly going to. Now in crochet it's not necessarily going to be something exactly like this. When I show this on Instagram, someone asked me, can't you do a crochet version? And I think it would be lovely to do a crochet cowl, and I'm certainly going to do that. I have this sparked an idea, and I was going to work on a crochet cowl, but I have no intention of trying to copy this in crochet. I know lots of people find this very interesting to juggle between knitting and crochet and trying to obtain the same look. I'm more interested in the specificities of each technique. I'm more interested in trying to find what's most interesting in knitting when I do something knitted, and really use the characteristics of the crocheted fabric when I'm working in crochet. But nevertheless, a cowl is a small interesting project, because it's very interesting to learn a new technique in such a small undertaking, I'd say, because there's much less yarn and much less knitting in a cowl than there is in, let's say, a shawl or a garment. And it's certainly very interesting to play around with. I think I'm going to do another episode talking about different cowl shapes and types of cowls and how you can work that. We'll, yes, taking mental note of this idea that I had just now when talking to you. So, so this is I don't think I ever even said the name of the pattern. Bad podcaster. So this is the Brioche Seeds pattern. You can, of course, find the link below. And the Brioche Seeds pattern is perfect when you are just learning to knit brioche. So it takes 300 meters of yarn, so it's not very time consuming. You will have lots of practice working increases and decreases, since the stitch pattern is shaped this way. And then you have a nice little cowl to wear around your neck when it's cold, or in spring when you just want to have something a little bit warmer around your neck in the morning and the evening. So back to crochet. I said in the beginning that I was going to talk about an old pattern of mine, and this is old. This is the love scarf. So this is a scarf pattern I made in 2005, so it's 15 years old. And as you cannot see, this is just granite stitch, which means it's alternating US single crochet and chains, and then the pattern is set off on the next row. And I call this the love scarf because this was a scarf I made for my husband in 2005, and I published it on the Crochet Me site. I worked with Kim Worker and plenty of other interesting crochet people on this website in the beginning of this century, and I published this one on the website at the time. So it's a quite simple pattern because it's just one stitch. You work it sideways to have the stripes going this way, and then you can mix your colors as you wish, and you finish it off with a little fringe. And what's so funny is that this was like 15 years ago, which is a long time even in real life, and on the internet it's just the Stone Age. And I still get requests for this pattern. So it was published on the Crochet Me website. And this website since has changed owners several times. There have been revamps of the new website several times, and people have at least for some periods of time had difficulties finding the pattern. And this winter I got another request. So people ask me for it, not every day, not every week, but regularly. And I thought that I wanted to publish this in a place where I can easily point back to it when I'm asked for it, and also as a little gift for the people who read my blog. So it's published on my blog. You can find the link below, or you can search for love scarf on my blog and you will find it. I published it on Valentine's Day as a small gift. As I said, I published this on Valentine's Day, and Valentine's Day was the day I got home from my last trip to Sweden, and my husband met me at the airport and he wore the scarf. He doesn't wear it every day, of course. It's been 15 years, but it's still here and still very well kept among his scarves. So please find the link below, or as I said, you can head on over to my blog and find it there. So just to finish this podcast, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's happening in my newsletter. So as you may or may not know, I do a newsletter. I put out a newsletter with a monthly crochet tutorial. And these past few months, I have been going back to the fundamentals of crochet, which is very interesting because you start to work on something and you think it's the fundamentals of crochet, and you want to talk about simple and easy things because it's interesting to have this as a resource for beginning crocheters. And then you finally end up going further and going more thoroughly into the topic, and it's interesting. I think it's really interesting for me to make this, and I hope it's interesting for you and for my readers. So these past few months I've been working on the selvages in crochet, because the selvage problem, it's always a big problem for people who start to crochet, and even for people who have been crocheting for some time. So you can find here on this channel several videos where I show different techniques to have smooth selvages in crochet. And I have also, of course, discussed how to make a straight selvage, even if I think it's in the first video somewhere or only the newsletter. I'm going to put a link below to the newsletter where I discuss my technique for having really straight selvages, not missing a stitch at the end of the row. But now we're done with the selvages. So what I'm going to tackle next is a really important question in crochet that is never an issue in knitting, and this is, where do I put my hook? So if you're a crocheter, you know that when you crochet you have only one loop on your hook once your previous stitch is finished, and it's a very interesting fact that you can insert your hook for the next stitch just anywhere. And this is what makes crochet so interesting for creatives, because you can work in 3D, you can develop new stitch patterns, you have a lot of freedom with crochet. But this is freedom only if you know what you're doing, and if you don't, well, this possibility to insert your hook anywhere, well, can be a problem because you get lost. So in the next newsletter, I'm simply going to show how to identify the place in your previous row where you're going to insert your hook. When it comes to the starting chain, there are already videos on this channel showing that quite precisely. But when you work into your previous row or your previous round, where do I put my hook? And then we're going to go on a deep dive into what you can do by inserting your hook in different places. So that's just what's going to come up in my newsletter, and if you don't want to miss out on it, do subscribe via the link below, because there's going to be some interesting explorations coming your way. So I think this is the end for this time. I'm hoping to get back in a fortnight. I had some shows planned here in France. They are all postponed because of the current virus epidemic. It's a problem for the organizers and the participants, of course, but that means I will definitely have time to record, and I will not be out and about selling yarns at shows. Not right now. It's postponed. It's going to happen. We just have to go through this crisis now and take really good care of one another. So take care of yourself, wash your hands, protect the people near and far from you by staying at home if you're sick. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, because that helps other people to find it. You can subscribe to my channel. I try to post regularly, but life happens. But if you click the bell, you're going to get notified anytime I put up a new video. So I wish you a wonderful day or a nice evening, and see you soon. Bye bye.